Hey guys, it's Bree here at Blossom and Branch Farm, and today I'm going to take you along to make this stunning bouquet. I'm going to give you all the varieties I'm using, and we're going to go over how I would price this at the end. So July's been a long month. I always get really burned out in July. I'm happy that it's August. I'm going to start by harvesting some Feverfew. This is the single variety of Feverfew, which I really prefer over the double variety. Look at the chamomile in the foreground here. I need to cut it down. It's not looking great. Next, I'm going to grab some bronze fennel, and I really love fennel for arrangements, especially once it's nice and open. That way it's not going to wilt. So here, right before it goes to seed is when I start to use it. Next up, I'm going to grab some blue. This is called tweedia. It's in the milkweed family, and it's one of the most stunning blue flowers that we grow, but you do have to be careful if you're going to grow this one because it does emit a sticky, toxic sap that can blister your hands. I don't personally have any problems with it, but you can see the white sap coming out of the stem, so do be cautious if you're going to be growing this one. It is a really beautiful cut flower though, and as you can see, it's really unique. Not a lot of colors like it out there. Whenever we do a U-pick at the farm, I do usually make a sign like the one you can see here that says do not pick because I want to make sure everyone stays safe on the farm. Next, let's grab some snapdragons. I've shown these ones before. These are the double frappe light pink from Johnny's seeds, and they do smell absolutely incredible. Now here in August, they're going to start to fade. So our snapdragons usually get rust at this time of year, and then it's time to cut them down. So we're going to be showing how we'll be cover cropping this row next. I'm also going to grab some of these Potomac lavender snapdragons because they kind of have a similar kind of pastel-y color palette that I'm going for here. These ones also smell really good, and the Potomacs tend to get really nice and tall. You can see how long the stems are on those ones. They look so pretty with those double frappe. Next, let's head to the Lisianthus row. I actually didn't net these this year, which is new for me, and I'm really happy with how they're doing. These are the black pearl, and you might remember that I had pinched a bunch of them late so that we could try to stagger our blooms, and it looks like that is going to be working out. So looks like we'll be getting some later blooms from these ones as well, instead of having them all bloom at the same time. I'll link that video down below so you can go back and watch it. But yep, pretty happy with the fact that these guys are not flopping over despite not having any netting. And also, I didn't treat these with root shield this year. I just used our little compost slurry dip with the microbial inoculants from Advancing Eco Agriculture, and I don't have any fusarium wilt on my lizzies this year, so pretty excited about that. All right, I'm really liking how this palette is looking. I want to grab some dahlias next. You can see this dahlia row is looking a little bit patchy. I've got these zinnias in here that are really fun, but I think they're a little bit too bold for this color palette, so I'm going to come down and maybe grab, some of these foxgloves. So these foxgloves are called Dalmatian cream. So these will bloom first year, where most foxgloves bloom second year. They're biennial. This variety called Dalmatian will bloom for you the first year, and I really like how cute they are. Now, foxgloves are toxic, so do be careful. Make sure that people know that they're not edible if you are giving them to them. Next up, we are going to grab dahlias. This is my favorite dahlia variety. It's called Wine-Eyed Jill, and you can see it has this dark center, but this one is a little bit too far past where I'd usually harvest. You can see the petals have started to reflex backwards on it, and that means it's a little bit late. Contrast that with this one, which is the right stage. The petals haven't started to reflex back, so I like to harvest them at that stage before those petals have started to fold backwards on themselves. We'll just get better vase life out of them. I kind of looked at some of these other dahlias, but I think they're a little bit too bright and colorful for this palette that we've got going, so let's stick with these Wine-Eyed Jills. Such a pretty kind of light peachy to pink. All right, let's see how it's looking. I like to step back and look at my bucket as a whole as I'm going, see what I'm missing. I'm really liking this one so far, but I think I want some more blue to reflect some of that tweedia blue, so I'm going to grab some of these Blue Glow echinops. These are in the thistle family, which is why the leaves do look a little bit thistly, and not only are they a great cut fresh flower, they're also really nice for drying. So at this stage is when I like to use them for fresh. I like to use them a little bit younger when I'm doing them for dried, before they've kind of started to drop any of those little petals, just because the older these flowers get, the more messy they are as we're drying them. They'll kind of go to seed and start to drop a lot of those little petals. So again, harvesting them younger if we're going to use them for dried is usually better. All right, I'm liking how this is coming together with a little bit more of the blue, but I still think we need maybe a little bit of good filler, so I'm going to pick some yarrow This yarrow is just about at the end of its life, so we're going to actually come through and do a big harvest of all of it here this week. I just strip off the leaves and I leave everything in the field because we just like to let a lot of that organic matter break down, serve as mulch on the soil. But if you wanted to, actually, for growing yarrow and harvesting it, you could also save those leaves and turn them into a tincture. I'll link that video below if you want to see how we use the yarrow. So adding that yarrow into the bucket, you can see we've got a nice pastel-y, kind of peachy, blue, yellow palette going here. So I'm going to come to the cooler. Let's start our bouquet. I also grabbed a couple other things like the Solidago and some Scabiosa Fama Blue, again, just for a little bit of that blue tone in there. I also wanted to pop in some zinnias, but I don't keep those in the cooler, so I harvested them separately. This is the new Zinnia ballerina from Johnny's Seeds, and I think it's going to look really nice with all of this. I also harvested some Queenie Lime, but I think they're a little bit too red. So when I put them with the rest of the palette, they didn't look quite right. So I think we'll take those out and we'll just go with everything else. I had some Rudbeckia in there as well, but I feel like the cherry brandy, again, a little bit too red. I'll keep the yellowish Rudbeckia in there. And now I think we're ready to build our bouquet and price it out. So I always start by grabbing a promotional photo of the bucket. Of course, I'm always multitasking with all the content creation we do around here, so always try to grab lots of video as I'm going. Now, the surprise element in this bouquet is these peonies. It is August 2nd, and these are the last of my peonies from the cooler. Again, we put those in the cooler when they're in marshmallow stage, and this is the last of them. They are still looking pretty good, but because it is August, they do bring a higher price. So that's going to bump up our cost of this bouquet significantly, starting at $9 a stem for those peonies in August. I always start my bouquets by doing this little X shape. So you can see I have kind of a loosely cupped hand, and then I'm feeding in my flowers one at a time, and each one goes in at a diagonal. As I'm feeding them in, I do a couple things. One is I make sure there are no leaves where my hand is going, because if I have too many leaves down there, number one, it's going to make the water dirty, but number two, it's going to make the bouquet really bulky. So if we're making this for a bridal bouquet, if we leave all those leaves on where the hand is, it's going to make it really difficult for a bride to hold, if that makes sense. So I try to remove any leaves that are down there, and I'm keeping that hand nice and loosely cupped. So trying not to grip the bouquet, I'm keeping my fingers loose. You can see I'm building two separate bouquets with the same ingredients. So you can kind of see how even working with the same ingredients, it turns out a little bit different every time. I do tend to work pretty quickly. This is not a bridal bouquet. This is just a retail, so it's going to be going into a vase. If it was a bridal bouquet, those ones usually take a little bit more time for me because I'm being very specific about flower placement, thinking about where those flowers are going to be for photographs. But because it's going on a table for someone's dinner party, I can just build it all the way around and we're good to go. You can see I'm popping in those peonies on the left, and I'm making sure that they're visible. So sometimes the focal flowers can sink a little bit too far down in the bouquet. If that happens, you can just kind of grab it and pull it up lightly so that it's not hidden down and in amongst all of the filler flowers. Now sometimes as I'm going, I'll notice that I have a little hole maybe up in the top of the bouquet as I'm looking down at it. So you can always thread a flower down and through the center if you notice a hole as you're going. There's really a lot of flexibility with doing it in this style. So some florists will do more of a spiral style where they're adding all the way around. I just find that doing this X shape idea is a little bit easier, so I'm basically building one side, then the other side, one side, then the other side. Now I'm making sure that I'm saving any shorter flowers for the outside of the bouquet, because if I put a shorter flower in the center, it's going to have a little bit of trouble being showcased. So instead, I save those shorter ones for the ends so that they can kind of fill out where my hand is. Because you can see where my hand is, it's a little bit bare. So on the left, I'm going ahead and adding that tweedia, which was a little bit of a shorter stem. So that one will be more on the outside to kind of fill in any gaps. Popping a little foxglove in where I see a hole, popping a zinnia in where I see a hole in the bouquet, and then you can kind of go underneath and adjust those stems upward or downward. So it kind of reflects this loose wildflower-ish style bouquet. It's very nice and light and airy. Of course, I like a lot of flowers in my bouquets, so some people would do more greenery. I just like a bouquet that's very heavy in flowers, and the price is going to reflect that. So let's take a look at what the pricing is going to be for this bouquet. This bouquet wholesale flower cost is $94.50. Now, of course, that is basically my price for seeds, my time to grow those flowers, inputs like water, fertilizers. So if I was selling these flowers to a florist or to a wholesaler, that's how much I would charge. Now, that being said, I don't sell wholesale. I don't really do a lot of sales to florists just because I don't sell on a big enough scale. So instead I do retail. So the retail price would be a ×2 markup. That covers things like my websites, my advertising, my marketing, and my time to do pickups and deliveries. And so that doubles the cost. So now we're sitting at about $190 for this bouquet. But of course, if you're doing wedding work, that requires even more back and forth with brides, more communication. And that's going to be a 3x markup, putting this at about $285 for this bouquet. So, all right, guys, that's it for me today at the farm. Let me know if you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to subscribe for more flower and farm content. We'll see you guys around here next time at the farm.